Hello, those of you who are already here. If you're here already, we're a couple minutes before start, so go ahead and pull the couple of things that are here. You'll need a card base color, you'll need some patterned paper, you'll need a little bit of white. Um, Basically, you'll need the equivalent of an 8.5 by 11-inch sheet. Here, let's zoom out a little bit here so that you can see this stuff. There we go. You'll need the equivalent of an 8.5-inch card base. And then I'm using 6x6 paper. So you could go ahead and pull sort of the equivalent of a 12 by 12 sheet or 4 sheets of 6x6. And then you'll just need a little piece of white. And goodness, I've got a couple of things. People are on already. Oh my goodness, good stuff. So I'll move this out of the way so that you can see what you need to pull. And we're still about a minute and a half, 2 minutes from starting. So that gives you a minute to go and pull the information and the supplies from your stash. And in the meantime, I'll have a drink of water. I am hoping that you can see and hear me. Maybe, Ruth, if you can see and hear me, can you just let me know? Oh, good old autocorrect. All right, so it is 1 minute after 12. I'm hoping people start to show up. Hopefully, once they find me here. If you can see and hear me, if you could just let me know, that would be really awesome. Otherwise, I might have to play around with things a little bit. Let's see here what my phone says. Let's see here. Correct. Oh, there we go. I can see and hear me, so hopefully you can too. All right. Well, we will get started here so that you can have some fun. So I'll get rid of this here, and we'll just move this over into the corner here so that you can still see it. Just tuck that up in the corner. Oh, hi, Ruth. And we're going to start doing our cutting. So we're going to need our 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper, and then whatever it is you're going to use to trim. And the first thing you're going to need to do is you need a 5.5 by 11-inch page. So we're going to cut that. So we've got the length of the page top and bottom, because that's the 11-inch, and then we need to make this 5.5 inches. So we'll just trim that out. Now don't throw away this piece of paper because we are still going to use it. And we'll score all at the same time in a minute here. This next piece, we need to have 3 inches. And look at that. It's exactly 3 inches, that little piece of paper. So we need a 3 by 6-inch piece of paper. So I need to open this out. And we will just cut this to 6 inches. And then our last piece that we need is a 3x3 piece of paper. So take that last little scrap of paper and you are left with this as scrap. That's it. So tuck that away, take your other 3 pieces of paper, and I'm just going to set them to the side here, and we're going to cut our pattern paper so that we can get all of our cutting down all at once. So I'm using 6x6 inch pieces of paper. If you had a 12x12, it would probably be a little bit more efficient just because then you wouldn't end up with some of the weird little scraps that I ended up with, but that's okay. So our first piece is 5 1/4 by 3 3/4, and you've got a couple of 5 1/4s. So we're going to cut that sheet of paper down to 5 1/4 to start with. Now this little piece here is going to be scrap, so throw that away. And we're going to cut the 3 3/4 inch piece first and put that into our pile. And then we need a 1.5 inch piece. Now you could cut it from this, or if you have a 6x6 inch piece of paper, your 4 pieces of 5 1/4 by 1.5 exactly fit into 6 inches. So I'm just going to use up one piece here, and we need to trim that to 5 1/4. And that little piece of paper is scrap. So we need 4 of 1.5. So there's 1. Whoops, chase that little guy down. 1, 2, 3. And that little piece that's left over in your 6x6 square, that is your 4th one. So it works out perfectly. But we still need to cut our 2 3/4 inch squares. So that's where we have that last piece, because this little piece here was not quite 2 3/4. So 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. So one of those, and we need 2 of those. So there's 1, and our last little guy here, 2 3/4. This little piece here is scrap. And then this last piece here, you don't need. So these are the 2 sort of usable pieces of scrap. The rest were sort of little teeny weeny chunks. So we'll get rid of those. And we need a 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 piece of white. And so we're going to cut that now. And there we go. Alrighty. I think that is probably it for right now. So we'll put those away, and now let's do our scoring. We'll do them all at the same time. It makes it a little bit more efficient. So we're going to go back to our instructions here, and we can see we need to score our long piece. So we're going to put our long piece so that the 11 inch is across the top, and you're going to get whatever you use for your scoring implements. And our first score is at 1 3/4, and then 3.5, 5 1/4, and 7. There we go. And then we have one last score here on that long piece of 3x3 piece of paper. And we're going to score it right in half. So we're going to score it at 3 inches. And that's it for our scoring. Yay. So we can put our scoring tool away. And now we've got some color pieces, and we've got some pattern pieces here, and we've got our white piece. So at this point, we're going to take our scoring tool and we're going to do our folds. And so when I do my folds, there's a side that puts the score down, and then there's the side that's sort of the bump. And let's see here. You can kind of see there's the bump side and there's the score side. So the side that goes down, that's the side that I have as the outside of the fold. It just seems to sort of tear that paper just a little bit less. And so we're going to fold that right in half, and burnish that little guy. And then your big piece that you scored. See here, can you see here the scores? So the scores are sort of working my way from the right to the left, and the piece on the left hand side is the great big piece. So I'm going to turn it so that that side faces me, and then flip it over so that the scores, the bump goes on the bottom side, because then we're going to go and fold this up and do your burnish. And then we're going to flip it over so that we've got all of our little 1.75 inch pieces here. And you're going to go to your first one right here, because there's your underside. You're going to go to your first one here, and you're going to fold it back. And when you're folding it back, you want to make sure that both sides here remain equal, and do your burnish, and then fold everything back up this way. And again, making sure that your sides all equal, and that this side here where you're doing your folds all equal. And then your last little guy folds on top. And make sure that those are nice and burnished tight, because when you're all done, your card should look sort of like that. All right. Now we can start gluing. So this is where we need our pattern papers. And it doesn't really matter at this stage sort of what you put your pattern paper on first. The next step is where it gets a little more complicated, and you want to make sure that your pattern paper is down first. So get your glue out, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on here, and you're going to center your 1 3/4 inch pieces on each of these 4 panels here. So nice and easy here. It puts a nice little sized border around the outside, you can see there. And just fold that over and do the next one. And keep on going until all 4 of them are glued down. This makes it very easy, and it's a pretty efficient use of your paper as well. You don't really end up with a whole lot of spare pattern paper or cardstock, which is really nice. All right, we've got our last of the 4 going down here. And then you're going to take your big piece. And of course, you probably guessed it right. It's going to go down here. So let's just glue this down. And center that little guy there. All right. Now, before I continue on, I'm just going to pause here and let you guys catch up. And hopefully everybody's keeping up. I'm going fairly quickly, but hopefully you can keep up here. So if someone wants to give me a heart or stars or something like that when they've caught up, just let me know. I'm not going too fast. That would be awesome. I know your hands are probably pretty busy right now, busy gluing, right? All right. All right, so we're going to do our last 2 pattern pieces of paper, and you are going to put them on your little tent card, your 3x3 that you folded in half. You're going to put it on the outside 2 pieces. And so there's that one. Ooh, let's put that on straight here, and then flip it over and put it on the last side here. Now I'm using liquid glue, but you could use, tear and tape. You could use a tape runner. It's sort of whatever you like. None of this is really terribly important. That you need wiggle room or anything, except when you kind of put things on the wrong spot here. I put it a little tight to the bottom, so I'm going to try and take it off. This is the fun part. And oh dear, I have made a real mess of that one. All right, let's try and put this, let's put a little more glue on this, and let's try this again. This time, let's put it straight. Tear my little chunky pieces off there. Now, if this looks too bad, then I might go and make another piece, but it's not too bad. You can't really tell too bad. So there we go. Alrighty. So we've got our 2 pieces here. That was your 3 by 6. We've got it folded and the pattern paper on the outside. We've got the pattern paper on each of the 4 little sort of fold over parts, and we've got pattern paper on the inside portion here. Next, this is where you'll want to follow along. You're going to take the folded over pieces and kind of scrunch them so that they're one piece basically. And you're going to take your glue and you're going to put your glue basically about what would be a centimeter or ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch on the outside of your 3 by 6 piece of paper here. And you're going to turn it around so that the fold is towards your right side, which is sort of the center of the card, or center going to the outside of the card. And you're going to take your pieces, your 4 pieces, squish them together, turn this upside down so that the glue is on the other side, and you are going to center it. So it's centered from top to bottom and roughly 3/4 to center in the sort of across the width of the 1 3/4 inch piece. And you're just going to glue that down there, try and make that relatively straight, and give it a squish to make sure that that adheres. So you've got something that kind of looks weird like this, right? You're going to keep those 2 pieces on the inside, these 2 pieces squished together. You're going to take that flap that you just created, and again, about a centimeter or ½ inch, give or take, you're going to put glue on the outside of that. And then you're going to take your card, put it on the piece, down on something, a solid surface, squish those 4 little pieces together, and then you're going to just fold this flap over. And when you do that, it should line up sort of the equivalent of what the underside was. So you've got, equal distance top to bottom, and ½ to 3/4-ish across this side. And just give it a squish to make sure that that glue adheres. And then it should look like this at this stage. And hopefully yours does. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set that aside because we need to take our little white piece of paper and we are going to glue it down on our other little 3 by 3 piece of cardstock. When you do that, just center that little guy right in there. And you probably guessed it right. It's got to go inside here so that you've got a place that you can write some sort of a sentiment. Now, what you want to do is you want to line this up so that, see how it just disappears right behind that other one? So what I do is I line it up, sort of make sure that it's all squared to the top one like that. Hold it with my 2 fingers and then put my glue down and make sure it's nice and square and nice and hidden behind that other piece. And then when you do that, you can just fold it over. And when you do, just keep holding it hidden behind this piece, and then give it a squish down. And when you do, see how it just disappears in behind the other flaps, so you don't even really notice that it's there. But when you open it up, there it is. And depending on how high you have this top flap will depend on how centered this one is. I've got this one a little bit towards the folds, so you can see that it's a little bit farther away from the folds and a little closer to the side. But it's fine because when you put your embellishments in, Nobody will even notice, um, you know, that it's not perfectly centered. So don't worry about that. All right. So now comes the fun part. This is the embellishing. So at this point in time, I pulled a couple of embellishments that I'm going to kind of addition. So I've got some white ones here. I got some ones that I painted or what that I blended just teeny weeny bit of blue. And actually, these were the ones that I had additioned for this card that I had made, but they just didn't seem right. And you can see there's the card. Probably could have showed you that at the beginning, couldn't I? All right, so I'll put that there. And then I made some that are pink. And basically, oh, and then I've got some silver and some gold ones, just to get a little sparkle. Because even though it is a sympathy card, doesn't mean that it can't have some sparkle to it. All right, so then I just kind of, put them down like this and go, okay, which one do I like better? Which one seems to go better? So if you want something that really stands out, you could use the white. Um, Depending on the color of your card, you could use like a black. But a black would have just disappeared into this, so I stuck with some lighter colors. Um, the blue looks not too bad, but kind of looks out of place because nothing else is blue. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to get rid of the blue, and I am going to probably, let's see here, when I throw some silver and some gold in there, I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pink and have that with the gold. It just seems to go a little bit nicer than with the silver. Um, that said, I use the silver with this one. Um, Silver goes really nicely with the cool tones, and so I use silver on this one. But I think this one we're going to use the pink and the gold. Now, what I did do, because you can see with this card, some of this hangs over the edge. And if you have just a single piece of paper, it kind of gets a little floppy. And so what I've done is I've just put a couple of layers. I've cut out a couple of these out of the white and then blended the top coat, but then you still have a couple of layers. So here's one that I did with 3 layers, and you can see it's got a little bit of dimension. So this is another way you could use if you don't have dimensional foam, little pop dots or anything like that. Just cut a couple of whatever it is you're making, whether it's an embellishment like this, or sometimes like a little sentiment. Here's our sentiment, and for the sentiment, I did use foam on the back. But for these, especially when you have these skinny little bits and pieces, they're really hard to get foam on. So if you just make a couple of layers this until it's thick enough that that puppy's not going to fold unless somebody actually folds it. It's not going to sort of droop. So since I want this color, let's see here. Since I want this color to be one of our accents, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it up. So I'm going to, this is a single layer, and you can tell it's pretty skinny, right? So I'm going to glue this on top of this. I'm going to use a white and a gold. There we go. So let's just glue, whoops, they're all tied up together here. Let's glue this pink on top of this white, which just gives me one more layer for this. And so let's get our little bit, just teeny weeny bit of glue. And I just kind of do sort of the major intersections and just little drops. And you can kind of see here, let's see, get this in focus. See how it's just sort of little drops, not necessarily the whole thing. And then you just lay this on top, and then you can just use your fingers. Now, if you get too much glue underneath there, what I do is I either tap it off on a piece of paper or just, like tap it off on my hand. And if you're of a certain age, you'll remember when you were at elementary school and you put rubber cement on your hand and you wait till it dry and then it would just peel off. Well, it does the same thing. Once it dries, you can just do that and it just peels off. Some people don't like that, so that's why you can also put it on a piece of paper. So I've just used my fingers to move this in place, and now you can see that guy really has some dimension. So we're going to, let's see here, I want to decide what I want on the top, what I want on the bottom. So I think I want the gold on the bottom, the pink next, and then the white on top. So we're going to tack this down. And again, this is super duper skinny little arms. So I will sort of put bigger dots in the intersections here and just try and get as best as you can, just a drop or two. Whoops, just a drop or two. Now in this case, I don't mind that these little pieces, if they pop up, I don't mind that because it adds dimension to this and movement. So I'm just going to put this here and hold it down for a minute. And then peel your hands off and see how it still has some dimension. It moves a little bit. It just adds to the dimension of it. And then I'm going to use the pink, and the pink has quite a long stem. So I just need to decide, do I actually want that long of a stem hanging down, or am I going to make it shorter? When we put our white one in there, it's going to be shorter. So I think I'm going to knock this off right about here. So that it's like that, hanging down a little bit, but about the same as the flower is going to be. And again, I'm just going to put little drops. We don't want this to stick, so, but there are going to be bits of it that hang over. So probably if I would, depending on where you're putting it, if it's overhanging this square, you may not want to put it on the part that's going to overhang that square. So we've got that. In this case, I don't mind if it actually ends up adhering itself to the layer that I have because it's just the underside layer, so I'm okay. And that's stuck there. And then I'm going to take this guy, and it's definitely going to overhang, so I'm not going to want to put glue down here or on the top portion of the thistle, because otherwise the next time you go to fold this, it is going to glue itself to the layer below, and that won't be a very good thing. And we're just going to sort of overlay it like that and give it a press just until it adheres a little bit. Oh, thank you, Curious Cat. Yeah, I like the pattern paper too. It's some that I have scads and scads of stash stuff. And so this 2026 is my year of using up stash stuff. And these little guys, we won't be using it all. We do need a sentiment, and you can put a sentiment on the front, or you can put a sentiment inside here, or you can put it on both. It's completely up to you. And the fun part is getting that sentiment detached from the backing. All right, and just put that down there and hold it for a minute just so that it sticks. And there you go. Now, if you wanted to, you could make this square a little bit taller. If you wanted to make your inside bit a little bit taller, if you like to talk a lot on your cards, or the whole back of your card is all free. So if you wanted to, you could put a big chunk of white paper here and do lots of conversation on the back there. For things like sympathy cards, and well, heck, most of the cards, I never know what to say. So I don't mind a little piece. Now, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and put a little embellishment on the inside here. If you put it sort of like this, it's hidden by that piece, and so it doesn't look out of place. And I think that's what we're going to do, since we have a little piece here. And again, little dot, 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 dot. And if you like what we're doing here, I have the perfect place for you. I've created a membership called the Card Makers Playroom, and you're going to see lots of emails about them if you are on my email list. And so basically, if this is something that sort of interests you and you like my teaching style, I'd love it if you'd come and check out the Card Makers Playroom. It's going to be a great place that we can come and use up our stash, make cards, have a lot of fun, have a community of ladies and gentlemen if they want to join, where you just come and you give yourself permission to come and play for an hour and a half every week. And we're going to have monthly experts who come in and talk to us about all sorts of things here. And we're going to have quarterly, I'm calling them parties, where it's basically a card making marathon. For 4 or 5 hours, we'll get together and we will make cards. There'll be a theme every month or every quarter, and one might be a birthday theme or a Christmas theme, or who knows what the themes will be. And we'll just make a whole bunch of cards. You'll use paper from your stash. If you don't have that much paper in your stash, you might have to go shopping. Oh darn. uh, and it doesn't matter your skill level. Beginners, intermediate. We'll show you all sorts of different ways to sort of make a card, and then we'll go slow enough to make sure that you can, follow along. Now, in this case, you could stop making the card right here. But on the card that I made here, let's see if you can see it. You can see some little translucent sequins there. So in person, it blings. You've got the shiny parts, and it's just a little bit, it's a way of amping up just a teeny tiny little bit. Alrighty. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, curious cat, you're Angelica. Awesome, thank you. All right, does anybody have any questions? Here's the 2 cards that we made, and here are your cutting dimensions if you wanted to take a screenshot of that. Or, as I say, come and join the Card Makers Playroom, and you'll get lots of this type of thing that will happen. And you'll have the instructions written out for you. All right. Well, I guess if there's no questions, I'm not seeing any questions here. And I hope you enjoyed making this easy sympathy card. It looks pretty. It's still sympathy. You could change it up by changing the whatever your label is, whatever your sentiment is. You could change it up to a birthday or a get well, whatever you want. Just change your label. All righty. Well, if there are no questions, I hope you have a fantastic day. I wanted to keep this around half an hour so that if you're trying to do this on your lunch hour, you have time to go and eat your lunch. So hopefully this still gives you a little bit of time to eat your lunch. And we will see you in a couple of weeks when I do this all over again. Have a fantastic day. Let's see how I can turn this off. This is always the fun part. I'm still learning all this tech, which is so much fun. There we go. All right. Bye-bye.